we are discussing today. One is to talk to the customer to help them with the cloud strategy. Okay. What is that we can do to make sure that we give them the right cloud strategy? Second one is to do a proper sales talk that we can do, more of a pre-sales point of view, and that is more or less from the Azure side. This is a conversation. The first conversation is about what you can do to talk to a customer to say that if cloud is right for you. If yes, what is that you're going to do to move your solutions to the cloud? Okay, so let's spend like 15 minutes on the first part, and then we'll be handling the rest of the sessions on the other side. Okay, so the first thing that any company should do when it comes to management of cloud or getting to cloud is you need to evaluate if the cloud decision is right for you, first of all, right? We need to have a lot of things in place. One is you need to understand the strategic direction at which the company is moving, first of all. So look at the direction of the board. In this case, like if you might have TC influence. Second thing is what's the motivation factor involved. 3, document the benefits in actually getting to the cloud, and what is the impact that the cloud is going to make onto your system. That is, you need to, once you have an understanding on this, make sure that all your original motives, benefits, and outcomes are properly documented and understood. So that's how you can actually say that this is what my evaluation criteria is going to be, and as long as you have this, it makes sense for somebody to now talk further. So it's important that this part of the conversation is very clear with the customer. They should have the proper direction in place. They should have a motivation in place. They should have proper benefit understanding in place. They should be well aware of the impact that it is going to make. If not, if this is not in place, following conversations are really not going to make a lot of sense. So this is very important. And the second part of the conversation is basically we need to understand from the review point of view, that is, whether you have a senior management buy-in into the situation, and you might be talking to a person. What is his role in that company, and what is the role in the strategy for that company, first of all? And you always need to ensure that, look at your business units and see if there are any cloud ready by default with the current configuration itself. Once you have that, then you should have a pilot project in place, right? That's what your pilot project is. Then you should have a proper understanding on your app listing, and you should have a proper understanding on its usage, like how is that used, and where is the data sitting currently? Is it on your on-premise, or are they already a kind of customer who is actually having certain systems in the cloud? It doesn't need to be in Azure. It doesn't need to be any kind of cloud system. So make sure you have a review to this. So the first option was to ensure that we are evaluating it in the right point. If you have this in place, then make sure you review it. You are talking to the right person who has the right role in the system, and you need to also identify a business unit which could be cloud ready, and talk about pilot project, and talk about getting the app list and its usage, current usage, and underlying factor is the data. Where is the data sitting? Okay. So now when you understand these two factors, there is always constraints that you need to look into as well. I mean, don't think that it's going to be as easy as possible. There will be constraints. Constraints can be related to regulations, right? Or it could be related to compliance. So if either of these cases, you might have to have certain constraints in your decisions. Second point is we need to look at what kind of data. We actually talked about data earlier. What kind of data it is, and if you know what kind of data, we also need to know how sensitive this data is. Okay, so we should actually have a proper segregation on the data. We should know the sensitivity of each of the kinds of data. Third thing is ensure that we have a proper data owner point of view, who is basically looking after those data. Second thing is these companies might have some customers, right? What are their expectations going to be? Are their data involved in this, or is there any privacy policy that you have as which you need to make sure that you're also looking at all those factors. Second thing is the company might have a DR or a BCP structure. So best is have a look at the BCP policy, and maybe sometimes it might need some updates. And importantly, ensure the legal team is in place in the discussion to ensure that we are not missing out in any constraints when it comes to the putting all the constraints. So what we actually talked in the first place, we understood we need to first evaluate, we need to then review it. Once we have reviewed it, whatever we have reviewed, we need to now list out the constraints that we should be looking at. And we still need to look at the third factor, that is the fourth factor, and that is the risk involved in actually activating it. Basically, is there any commitment that you have done to the business? So there is any business commitments, possibilities are there. You might have a data center agreement or something like that. Second point is the applications that you're looking at ready for any kind of migrations, first of all. Third thing is, as I mentioned, look at any contractual obligations that you might have, that you might want to look into. And the fourth thing is typical time and resource factors. Do you have the time to do it? Do you have the resources to do it? And this is where you can evaluate what is actually get across that factor. And the fifth point is finance. What is the finance? We need to look at the objective that we are looking at here, understand, talk about the OPEX, CAPEX model, right? And certain possibilities are there that you might have additional businesses possible because now you have the power of cloud. So have an understanding on that. Maybe earlier you were not able to do certain business because you have limitations because of your current system. Cloud doesn't have anything like that. The other part is the workforce that the company might have. It might need certain training, restructuring, and things like that, right? Because now you're talking cloud, you're not really dealing the same thing. And in that case, you have budget that needs to be allocated. And of course, you need to ensure that all your investors and stakeholders are looked into, right? So these are what you can actually look at from the point of view. When you're talking to a customer that we can help you, it is actually on these factors, that is 5. And of course, you can actually tell that the advantage of handling with us is we can help you with the workforce, right? and we should be able to help them with the skills that is required. And we put a training plan across, and we will identify the roles which are redundant and retrain them into certain activities and then put them back into the system. So that's something that we can talk from the HR point of view. And so this is all about the prospect about moving to the cloud. But it's important that when it comes to the operation section, you should also have an understanding on benefits the cloud is going to get to the company. What is the transformation journey for the for all the applications they have currently, right? And if you remember, there was a pilot project which we selected. What were learnings that we got from that needs to be applied into the upcoming projects? And even because we should be coming with certain learnings from our experience, and that should be also added into the operations point of view and things like that. And at the end of the day, such a project is only useful if we agree on certain KPIs. What are the action plans in place? Then we talk about the what are identified factors for the KPI. Then we look at what is a scale that we are looking at, and what is a methodology for this particular KPI creation. So if you actually end up talking to them and submitting a document which actually tells these factors, telling that we help you evaluate, we can sit with your organization, even evaluate whether cloud is right for you or not. Doesn't mean that at the end of the day, we will say that, oh yeah, that's what the place that you need to go to. We have an understanding on this, then we talk to the review point of view, understand what about more details on the whole thing. Then we look into the constraints. What are the constraints that the company has currently, and look at the risk involved, look at the finance point of view, look at the HR point of view, that is the resource required, and look at the operational benefit, and finally tell the KPI. And that is exactly what we can tell as a document from our side, telling whether this is not yet moving to the Azure, but this is a document that we can create to ensure that whether cloud is right for you or not, first place. And so somebody asked you these questions. I think this is what can give you an answer, and just wanted to actually open it for questions to ensure that everybody is in line. And then let's hopefully made sense what I said so far.
So Ashwin, this is Huzaifa. These discussions,
yes,
like we should be carrying out these discussions with CFO, CTOs, or from the business side people.
So this is exactly why this component is important. Actually speaking, it can't be a one-person discussion. Keep in mind. So when you talk about these evaluation factors, right? This factor is something that needs to have inputs from all directors that is involved in the business, and the other finance parties involved in the business. It doesn't need to be exactly at the C-level, but definitely all the directors who are involved in the actual activities of the work, at least that should be the person involved in the review committee. And then this report has to go to this stakeholders and things like that, right? So it doesn't matter whether we are talking to the C-level resources. At least it is a work that you're doing to the directors of the company. We will be more or less an advocate of the directors, talking to the C-level bench, and we can say that we can get into the meeting in any of those which require and things like that. Does this more like empowering them in their next level meeting. That's it. Ideally, if you ask me, this success of this matters as long as you're able to give documents and slides which they can use straight away in the next meeting. It's not that we should have deliverables which they can produce it to the next level at their end. I mean, they should not be again reworking things and things like that. As long as our deliverables have those in place, I think it will be quite useful to them. Sure. And cloud decision doesn't need to be done in a week or so. I mean, this is a document that can be submitted. They can have their own internal meetings. They might come back saying that, hey, we missed this evaluation. It's okay, but at least there is a baseline. That's it.
Sure. Okay.
So that's all about the first part. This is more about helping a customer to understand the cloud strategy they need to apply, or an answer to a question which many companies are still looking for, right? Is cloud right for me, first of all? I mean, even before moving to cloud. So this discussion is going to help them, telling that, oh yeah, this is an activity that we can do on you, and which can, at the end of the day, the deliverables are these documents, which can be used as a meeting documents or meeting content for their next level stuff. That's it.
Right.
Now, see, this is the problem is most organizations talk about cloud even without even understanding if it is right for them, first of all. Now, whatever I'm going to talk from now on, okay, is a decision. Once they have decided, yes, the cloud is the right place for me, then whatever I'm discussing from now on makes sense. If the company is literally telling, I have no idea, then we're not yet in that position to talk anything about the cloud. We should be rather talking whatever we said here right now, these 7 points, and that's it. Let's not talk cloud right now because they themselves is not clear whether they need to go cloud or not.
And Ashwin, in that, I remember you told there's nothing like cloudable or non-cloudable. Everything can be put on cloud. It is just a matter of which workloads or which applications can be optimized and which cannot be.
So what happens is situations on the cloud factor is it is necessarily not a technical reasons why somebody is not willing to go to cloud. If you ask me, there is nothing called an application that can't be moved to cloud. But when I said these are the factors why somebody would look at actually moving to cloud or not, like when you look at the evaluation, look at your current motives and things like that, you might have, say, for example, you have a business of handling data center. In that case, you're conflicting your own main business, right? To actually, so it depends on your evaluation factors, right? What is that you're evaluating to get into that? And also you need to look at your earlier conversations. You might have a communication channel that is built up saying that you as a company might have an understanding, right? Like, or an identity saying you might have made statements around cloud earlier, and if you move yours to the cloud, then that is not exactly correct, right? So evaluation is not exactly from the technical point of view, if you ask me. This is more of a buy-in that you're getting from the company. And when it comes to cloud ready and things like that, it is more or less this way. There are certain components in an organization which can be moved quicker to the cloud. Certain needs more work. That's it. So it's always interesting to actually see the workload and take the workload which is easiest to get to the cloud first. That's it. But first thing is they should be mentally, and the management should be prepared to the concept of cloud first of all. That's it. Most of the case, there are a lot of misunderstanding on the cloud, and that's what gets removed in the other 7 points. That's it.
Sure. A lot of people think once we move to cloud, we would be exposed. This is the first thing
That
which
is
comes to my
exactly
mind.
the reason. If these discussions are done to them, they should have a fair amount of understanding on that, right? What they are currently looking at, and because we have given everything, every details to them, right? What is the benefit? What is the risk involved? We're not actually talking just the benefit, right? We're looking at everything. We are looking at risk. We are looking at constraints. So it's not a one-sided discussion here. It is not a cloud bias discussion. Keep in mind, this is a very clear discussion where we put all the details. Now they have to look at factors. We are looking at any factor. If there is any factor in your organization which is limiting you to go to the cloud, that's it.
Right.
If there is, we will be upfront and telling them. And why we and not Microsoft doing it? Because we have zero business in cloud. We don't care whether you move it to cloud or whether you put it on-premise. For us, there is no financial benefit. If this conversation comes from a cloud provider, there is already vested interest in the business, right? So their report may look different, but we are saying that we will look in the best interest of you, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we shouldn't be actually talking Azure, GreenLake, or anything in that discussion. It is vendor agnostic, nothing to do with any particular vendor. That's it.
Right.
Now, what happens is, if you look at any Microsoft document, that is going to talk about everything what I'm going to talk from now on. That is, you have decided to go to cloud. Once that decision is done, that's when whatever I'm going to tell from now on makes sense to anything. Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So when you look at the strategy to move to cloud point of view, we are looking at a situation. First thing is, what is the motivation factor? Like the answer to why. Why are we moving to the cloud, right? If that answer is not there, then you are actually starting at a wrong place, if you ask me very clearly. And to get you an answer to that is why the earlier sessions were important. So you can't start here. You have to do the earlier things. If they say why, there's no answer for it, it's a very clear indication, hey, it means that we need to talk a little backwards.
Right.
Okay. So there is
means?
Backwards means whatever we discussed in
Right
the
now.
earlier
Okay, fine. Okay.
section. We need to tell them clearly that, hey, we are not ready to talk right now. If the why, if there is no answer to why, we need to tell them that for your best interest, let's work together to get a answer to that. And that's it. And how are we going to do it is what we spoke just now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can tell you a few things. When generally what happens is, if somebody talks about a why factor, right? If they are actually telling you that, my senior management asked us to move to cloud. Now, that is a real bad answer, if you ask me. That can't be a motivation factor. You got the point? It cannot be that management asks you to move to cloud or MOTCS license to cloud. Let's move to cloud. No, that is not the right answer to it.
It's a decision by force, not a decision by choice.
Yeah, exactly. So that is not a right answer, right? I think we should always try to figure out what is the real motivation behind it. If MOTC has given them the license, there should be some reason to that, right? Or maybe anything is there. but we should actually try to get to the right reasons. That's it. One is their current data center agreement might be expiring, right? Possible. Whatever data center they are currently running, that agreement might be end of license or end of the contract, right? That's one option. Or else you must be talking about companies that are actually getting into certain disinvestment situations, or maybe situations of merger and things like that, right? And you can look at options where a certain company will say, I need to ensure that I reduce the capex. That's one reason, right? Second point of view is they might say that I have a lot of Windows 2008 systems and they are unsupported, and I can't migrate. One way is to move to Azure, because Microsoft will still give you support if it is running on Azure for some more time period. So they have a time window to service it and update it and things like that. Fifth point can be they have regulatory requirements and on their data center. Okay. Now, so if you look at the point of views that we can actually look at, and so these are few I will tell is whenever we actually talk about this, the motivations, right? Always try to list the motivations from migration point of view, from a innovation point of view, and you need to actually ensure that what is the future prospect that they are looking at, what is the reason for it. So always try to have an answer to these. Like you might say that I'm looking at getting into new geographical regions in my business. Could be one of the reasons, right? Or migration factors are typically basically cost factors, right? You're migrating because my data center agreement is getting over and I don't want to get into another capex agreement. Possible, right? And another option is to optimize your internal operations, because if you want to make your organization more agile, one of the factor is get to cloud, right? So that's agile factor, and everything can come under innovation. That is, to make your business more agile, you can actually tell that you need to look at new business opportunities and things like that. So always try to segregate your activities and those factors, and that's it.
Ashwin, when we look at the size, if someone, okay, when I look at my clients, what should be the minimum size of a client who, for example, there's a client which has 50 users in his office, Exchange. So when we look at the size perspective, who should we be proposing, who should we be doing the cloud discussions? What should be the minimum size of the client?
There's no minimum size of a cloud when it comes to minimum size of a client when it comes to a cloud discussion, if you ask me. The size depends on another factor. That is, if you have lesser number of users, then you should be more focused on SaaS platform, software as a service cloud platform. If you or a PaaS, you should not look into the infrastructure as a service solutions. If you have smaller organizations, infrastructure as a service cloud factor will be very expensive deal. It's like this way. If it's like you have to go to a destination, you go in a passenger plane, right? Or else you can get into a typical 10-seater fighter jet as well. I mean, sorry, not fighter jet. I mean to say a 10-seater chartered flight. But that is exactly the problem. So you don't want a chartered flight unless you are actually really needing it. So if you're a small company, you necessarily don't need infrastructure as a service. You should be okay with the shared services like SaaS or a PaaS situation. That's it. And in that case, the cost factor will make sense to you.
Right.
If you remember in our discussion, I did not agree to the putting DR in Azure because that was an infrastructure as a service situation, and we just had few servers. And I said, no, it's not an ideal factor. If it was a requirement saying that I have Exchange server, then I would have said straight away, oh yeah, of course, move to cloud, but move to SaaS, and that's Office 365.
Right.
So size necessarily doesn't mean that you have nothing to do with the cloud. Size generally means which part of the cloud is good for you, and that's it.
Okay.
So that is about the motivation factor. The second part is we need to have an answer to the business outcome. If you look at the business outcome, understand you're talking to somebody from the finance team. You have people from the marketing team involved. You have team from sales involved, and you should have people from the HR involved in these factors. Because these you need to actually give an understanding that when we are getting into this discussion, we might need representations from these departments, from your organization, to get the most information out of the pot. So why finance is involved is to ensure a point of view that we can do to increase the efficiency of the current spending. Secondly is marketing is more or less from a customer retention point of view. If you're looking at retaining existing, acquiring new customers, what is their figure that they are looking at? What is the target they are looking? They must have some target, right, for this quarter, or whatever it is. And target that is given to the HR. What kind of training? We need to have resources from these factors as well, and we need certain always have a mindset of innovation. That is, you need to look at what you can do to innovate on their data. If they have a data warehouse, what is that innovation that you can do to do a better prospect to it? And second thing is, so if you look at the even the factors are, many organizations do not even, they have a lot of data, but they don't do anything with it, right? So that's one factor you can talk about. You are having a lot of data with you, but you're not really using it to your advantage. So that's where you can actually tell, we can work with you to actually ensure that you have a proper data analytics in place, and which can let you know with what can you do. I mean, you could essentially have certain business intelligence added to the system, right? While working with them, you might get to know that, hey, your current expenses are on these hardware. When you move out of it, this is what the factors are going to be, the cost of the hardware. And you can also look at option when you talk to the sales and things like that, you get to know their customer range, right? Is the customer more local customers, or are they talking about a global access here, right? And so these are going to help you to get an understanding. And when you talk about HR generally hires resources based on the current business goals, right? They have certain reasons to hire certain resources in the organization. One more best part I can tell about is before even getting into the customer, do a research. If you're actually using LinkedIn, do a research in that company saying that what level of changes has happened in the last 90 days in that organization. What are the new resources who have joined that company? What kind of shift is going on? Look at their LinkedIn post or maybe Facebook post or whatever posting. What is the kind of conversation they are actually trying to achieve? It's very important, because even before you talk, if that information is there with us, it's going to make a lot of difference. They're looking, because they don't want us to go there and then make changes to certain things which they planned for a long duration, right? So always try to be in line with what they are trying to do. I mean, the best option is see their LinkedIn, see who is getting hired, what is the last 90 days hiring period going on with that company, things like that. Maybe look at their blog post, if there is any particular blog that is coming up from the management or that. Or were they in the news in the very recent point? And I think it makes sense when you talk to them. If you put all these conversations, just put that news info in between the conversation, that will make them understand that this company is really interested in working with us, right? Make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
See, other option is getting into the business justification point of view. Whatever you're trying to do, you need to build a business justification factor. There are certain myths that need to be cleared. Cloud is cheaper. No, that is not the case. Okay. Second myth, everything should go to the cloud. No, that is also a myth. That's not really the required. You have still option to have a hybrid situation. Right? And second part is, whatever I have on premise, it is always better to replicate that design to cloud. No, that's not the case actually. Your cloud design should be cloud specific, right? So it's important that you look at the understanding. I'm pretty sure that when we don't get into a discussion of capex versus opex, if you ask me, from my experience, don't talk to people saying that opex is better than capex. No, that is a discussion that is left to the team. We can say the pros and cons on both sides, but it is not a good idea to always get into a conversation that opex, because cloud is opex, it's automatically better. No, it is not always the case, right? There are still people who thinks renting a house is better than buying a house, but some people say the other way around, right? Some say buying a house is better than renting a house. So that myth is, it's not that, you might like it, doesn't mean the other person likes it as well. And I've seen that in most of the Gulf countries, it hardly matters to them. If you ask me, OPEX, they're okay to invest and get to the systems. I mean, so that is where you can actually talk about 70%, commitment. If you do a commitment for 3 years, you get less billing on the cloud, right? So if the company is more CapEx oriented, pull them into a cloud conversation saying that, hey, let's get into a 3-year agreement, and you have like 50 to 70% off on the pricing, and that's it. But you might have to pay upfront. So, but they don't care about the capex, then it doesn't matter to them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if you look at the an ROI factor, what is the ROI involved? It is actually the gain that you got from the investment. That is basically that you're going to reduce the initial cost right? Or investment, you can call it as an investment point of view. And divide that by the initial investment. That is what your ROI is going to be. So that's a generic formula that you can use. And it's like whatever gain that you're going to get from the investment. Again, that's why I said to you that you should have a fair amount of understanding on his business outcome. What is his target is? So investment, gain from investment has a lot of options, right? They might be able to target new customers. They might be able to be more agile. Their turnaround period for a particular work will be less. These are all going to be a gain involved in the whole thing, right? Now, why this point of view is what you need to understand is it's important to ensure that you have a proper partner involved in this whole activity. And that's where we can talk about us coming to you, talking about the scenarios and what are we going to help you? We help you with designing the first cloud adoption project. And that's basically it. And that's basically end of the strategy discussion, if you ask me. So the main part is what I discussed in the beginning. If you don't know the answer to this, you need to be telling them very clearly that we would request your time to ensure that we spend some time to you can tell very clearly, we are ready to spend it from our side. We would like to know more about the whole. If there is no proper answer for this, try to get time from them for these conversations, and try to submit a document which is in line with them, which has these factors, and then talk about strategy. Okay, now that is the movement to cloud factor. Now, this is the strategy that we have. Strategy always starts with the motivation factor. We should have a business outcome written in it. We should have business justification written in it. And then we talk about, we as a partner, what is the first project that we can go to? We should be their myth buster. That's exactly the point I want to make. Let's not just talk glorified pictures of cloud. Let's talk everything. We'll be very transparent. Talk everything about cloud. What is cloud? Understand the animal properly. And if that makes sense to you still, that's exactly what we are here to help you. So that's all about today's discussion, but I'll leave it to comments. You have anything to talk, let's talk on that, and then I'll touch base further again. If you need a kind of a catch-up meeting again, we can consider one more on this if you require. That's it.
Yeah, may not be one. We would need maybe a couple.
I'll tell you one thing. Once you have a strategy ready, okay, you are actually just starting the battle. You need to actually have a plan in place. You should have a ready documentation, what you're going to do in the readiness factor. You should have adoption in place. How are you going to adopt? You should have a proper documentations around governance. You should have documentations around manage, and finally, you should be able to organize it, right? So this discussion is just starting to do these. And I can have targeted discussions on plan, ready, adopt, govern, manage, organize as well. We can have meetings on that as well. So that we need to ensure that we understood strategy very well, because to get into any meeting on strategy, keep in mind that this is actually answered. Otherwise, we are answering things. We're basically not in the right direction at all.
Right. So when we are into discussion with any client, okay, we are so many account managers in this call. So at what stage or before we get you into a call with
So
customer?
ideally, if you ask me very clearly, there should be flyers. We should have flyers created for this activity. We should have marketing engagements on this first activity, saying that we would like to talk to you. We will do a free assessment. Or we would like to talk to you to help you build a cloud strategy. That is a typical marketing work that needs to be done. I don't mind getting involved as long as this information is passed to them and they are willing to have a cloud strategy discussion. I'm open for that. I mean, involve me right away. There should be marketing done to take this message. And I'm not expecting that if you tell a customer today, documentation is done on this. We should have a white paper created on this. If you ask me, I say, what is the GTM on this? I'll say GTM is very clear. It's published. What I would suggest is very simple. Actually, the accounts manager doesn't need to tell, hey, I'll get in touch with you with Ashwin. No, we should have materials with us. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. When we are getting into this, we should have white papers. We should have marketing flyers, and the account managers should very clearly say that, hey, would you like to know more? Please read this. You want to know more again? Let's get into a discussion. But you got what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
some sort of basic understanding should be there with client when before
Yeah, I
before he
guess
talks
the
to.
client should be clear how they want to take the things ahead. If they are not clear, then that means they are not prepared, maybe.
Understood. See, this discussions doesn't see when you talk to them, they find it useful. If they find the white papers useful, this is important. I updated you about certain things, right? In the way that when a customer is looking at factors, if an XYZ customer, you're looking at XYZ customer, I said to you that you should monitor that customer's activity for 90 days. Same thing should be applicable to us, right? When we talk cloud, our internet activity should be also talking cloud, right? If you're getting my point, we should have some internal targets. If you ask me very clearly, wherein we can write blogs, we can write white papers, we can like these conversations that we are doing internal in the team, right? That's good, but only us. We should have similar engagements with external world. Actually, we should invite the public for such conversations. Let them ask whatever they want. Like ask me anything kind of sessions on pre-sales. This will actually give an understanding that, oh yes, company has this legacy. It is actually dealing it for the last these many days. But what we are doing is internal. I mean, we need to replicate it external as well. That's what I meant. And best way is writing white papers, properly branded white papers, properly branded documents in the blogs, and things like that. And we should have some sort of events which is independently managed. Doesn't matter whether there's only 10 people in that meeting, but we did it, so that's enough, right? I would probably leave, I think, Dheeraj, he must definitely have better ideas than me, that's for sure. But it just came in my mind, that's it.
No, Ashwin, overall, very good pre-sale session, and I think I learned a lot, and I think it was a very good learning. I think this will be a bit of a journey for the team. We will continue to all learn together, but I think this gets us at least grounded on how to approach initial conversations and then bring them back into some opportunities that they can pull you in and have a deeper discussion around cloud. So very good. Thank you for your time and effort. It was a great job. Anybody have any questions for Ashwin?
Ashwin, I got a few questions.
Yes, please.
With with respect to I'll put it this way, that with respect to our role is concerned, when it comes to, let's say, for example, the cloud strategy is concerned. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, let's say, for example, I initiate discussions with few entities. So, are we coming in picture as a consultant to the client, or are we coming in picture as an implementation partner, or it's a combination of both? Because a consultant cannot be an implementation partner, or if you're implementing, then we cannot be a consultant. How we kind of
No,
position
it
ourselves.
it is not like that actually. What happens is very simple. If you look, we should very clearly be saying that we are working with you as consultants to get your cloud strategy sorted out. First of all, once the cloud strategy is sorted out, then that is when our role as an implementation partner can come in picture. These are typically situations like this, right? Implementation is another is just a way of deploying what was consulted earlier. So consulting is a part of it. Simple as that. Even they can actually deal it with another implementation partner if they want to.
But again, when, for example, when we say that we are coming as an implementation partner, we are specifically brand agnostic. It can be any cloud service provider, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. What we should be telling them, saying that, hey, we are not going to be talking. See, I'll tell you very clearly. I talk Azure, but I want to admit one thing, that I'm a Microsoft Azure certified architect. I am an AWS certified architect. I am a Google certified architect as well. But just that I talk Azure because Azure is what makes sense in Qatar and nothing else actually. So we don't need to be Microsoft specific very clearly.
Okay.
We can talk any cloud, doesn't matter.
Yeah, got it. I mean, first and foremost, one of the very valid points, that you touched upon, apart from motivation, what is the business drive, which is a compelling factor for them to kind of, focus or at least start the discussions on the cloud, which is the most critical part. And then, as you said it rightly, that once we share some initial, white papers with them, once we have the internal discussions with them in terms of what exactly, why they are driving towards cloud, then we can kind of probably involve you, because at least that much amount of understanding we have definitely got so far from different sessions from your end.
Yeah, it makes sense actually. As I said to you that, what are small steps that we have to do actually. So if you look at Microsoft, very recently Microsoft released Shared Disk. How did we got to know? Because somebody working in Microsoft created a blog on it. And it is not a personal blog. It is a document written by a person working in Microsoft. So which means we should have clear path in these actions as well. We need to have a proper online presence on these things. When somebody type these things, our SEO should be very clearly taking it to us. And look at a situation when a customer reaches to you because you did an online activity on this activity, saying that, hey, we'd like to actually know more about it. I mean, it's an opposite way of conversation, right? That makes a lot more sense, right?
True.
And that's one reason why most companies actually talk about, if you look at HP, entire HP posting that comes nowadays is all about hybrid and GreenLake, and they have marketing materials made on that already, like why hybrid is better and things like that. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is very important. I mean, operations is one part. We should also, I mean, we are all again at the end of the day, although I generally never had a sales in my work title, but we are always the sales guys at the end of the day, right? I mean, we sell something in every time, so that's the part of the life.
True. Agree. No more questions from my side. I'm clear.
Oh, good. Perfect. All right, then, if that is the case, we can call it today. And as I said, we can talk further again based on whatever feedback I'm going to get. Maybe you can talk to me one-on-one.
Yeah.
If you need further such sessions, let me know. We'll plan it. Should not be a big deal.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right
Ashwin.
then. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashwin.
Right.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dheeraj, for organizing this.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Yes.
Thank you, Ash.